Welcome back to Beyond the Edit. On today's episode, I'm talking to Frankie, the first person eliminated from Australian Survivor Titans v Rebels. I can't thank Frankie enough for joining me on the podcast to talk about Survivor and her life. As you can tell, as we discuss on the podcast, we have a bazillion things in common. So both of us were sort of scratching our heads thinking, why didn't we play together more on the game? Oh well, maybe next time. I think you're going to really enjoy this positive and constructive conversation. And for other Survivor players out there, I think you're going to find some really useful lessons listening to Frankie's perspective. Let's take it away with Frankie G on Beyond the Edit. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here with Frankie. Thank you so much, Frankie, for joining me on Beyond the Edit. You're a really special guest for me because, you know, we had very different experiences, let's just say that, on Titans v Rebels.
At least, yeah.
But you hold a really special place in my heart because you intimidated the hell out of me in the game. In a positive, this is a compliment. I think you're a fantastic person and player, and I know that even after like the game came out, like we shared some really nice and fun messages. So thanks for being such a trooper. Thanks for coming on and having a chat.
My pleasure, Mark. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, awesome. What did you think? What crossed your mind when I asked you to come and jump on a podcast, talk about everything Survivor?
No, I was so excited because look, we have had the chat since like coming off, especially when I do feel like I knew what was about to happen when I watched it, and we had to touch the base with each other a little bit to be like, are we all good? So I think I think it was good to kind of have this chat and really get to know each other on a different level, I guess, like outside the game.
Yeah, that's awesome. And in Frankie rocked up with her awesome leather jacket. So I ran into my wardrobe. For those who can't see, I've got my leather jacket that I got from Europe many moons ago. So it's the birth of the Jacket Alliance.
If only we wore this with Garrick on day one, things may have changed.
Oh, that would have been awesome. Oh, that's a fun thought. As I've been doing, I've been rewatching people's intro packages, and I rewatched yours, and you are peak Titan in my mind. You are an absolute, you're such a boss. Like, I'm so impressed with the company that you've built and all of the different interests that you have. And I'm also obsessed with the idea that people judge you wrongly based on your physical appearance. So there's a lot to unpack, but I'm keen to know how you built your hair salon in Bondi at such a young age. What's that like? And how did you pull that off?
So honestly, like everything in my life, I've gone so long saying like I got lucky somewhere, I got lucky. But then I forget that maybe I set my own luck up and I don't give myself enough credit for certain things that I have done. But for me, honestly, I fell into hairdressing. I finished school up. I didn't come from a lot of money, wasn't entirely sure what I was going to do. And one of my friends was like, look, I think I was working like 6 jobs at the time. And one of my friends said to me, she's like, just come be an apprentice. And I thought, this has got to be easy. Surely I can just do hair, no worries. Went into it, and I thought it was one of the hardest but most rewarding jobs. And I've been doing it 18 years now, and I still love my job. And I think that was the big thing. I was like, I want to love my job and love going to work. And so after managing a bunch of salons, I thought to myself, I need to stop telling people what to do and start telling people what to do. So start making
actual
it my
boss
own
level.
way. And that's when I kind of I got together with my brother-in-law actually, and we opened up in Bondi. It was a hard time for us. We opened up, signed the lease just before COVID lockdown here in New South Wales. Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah. So we did that.
You've gone from apprentice, you've been managing all these different salons, you've no doubt you've like, okay, well, let's do it. Let's take the plunge in Bondi and then COVID hits. Oh my gosh.
And like in the brand new corner in Bondi, it's absolutely stunning, but it was like, it's a hexy corner and I had to fight to get that corner. And as soon as it all happened, we, COVID hit and I was like, surely we can just build through that, right? And then no, we were locked down here. So yeah. That was a
Wow.
tough time, but got through it, and yeah, then now we've been open for 2.5 years now. But
Right.
I met so many people during lockdown. Now we were very much hated in the eastern
Mm.
suburbs during lockdown, and I don't blame people
Right.
because our 5 kilometer radius was
Yeah.
Bondi Beach,
Yeah.
and so during that time I met so many people from just walking around. And I think that really helped me build the salon, to be honest.
Wow. So like you basically got a captured 5 kilometer market, like a radius market. It's like,
100%.
whoever's in this area, come and get a haircut at my new
Yeah,
joint.
about
And
to open
yeah,
up, and
yeah,
like you scratch my back, I'll scratch your back. That's what Bondi kind of reminds me. Like we do get a bad rap, but it kind of
mm,
reminds me of like there's a lot of bartering system there still. There's a lot of
yeah,
like community there, like help the locals, support small. I
yeah.
really enjoy that. And that's why I feel like our salon's been thriving there, to be honest.
That's awesome. It's like an identity. You know, when you talk to someone from the States, and you meet them and you go, where are you from? And I say Australia. And I say, where are you from? They say New York. You know,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
like it's
100%.
it's an identity. Like you're from Bondi. Yeah. I'm not
Yeah.
even from Sydney. I'm from Bondi. Yeah.
Yeah, it's straight
I love
100%.
Bondi. Yeah. I do. That's really cool to be a part of that community as well. You know, like you're part of it. You've got a
Yeah,
shop there.
and to be honest, it's like so my shop's down in this place called Seven Ways, and I remember when we opened the door after all the really hard work. Shout out
Mm,
to Bill, the guy who works on the corner. He's had his
yeah.
butcher there for like 18 years, and he's got to be sorry, Bill, but he's got to be like in his 70s or something like that. And he hope, and he started walking into the salon, and he just said like, "Welcome here. We I wish you the best for your business." Like that's what I mean by that sort of community. Like
Mm.
at the
It
end of the
doesn't
day,
matter. It's a
yeah.
butcher and a hairdresser. It's you're like you each want to see everyone else succeed, I
Oh,
suppose.
100%. I love seeing everyone succeed in that area. I hate seeing this weird thing happens when you become a small business owner, and I hate seeing businesses close down now.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I mean, the amount of effort and courage it takes to do it, it's so admirable. I want to go back quickly to your apprenticeship. What was that like? You know, it's first day on the job. What do you do? Does someone hand you a pair of scissors and go chop away? What's that look like?
And it's interesting because the interesting thing about doing any type of trade, because there is
Mm,
so many, I feel like we're losing people in trades all the
mm,
time. But the interesting thing about doing anything in trades is apprenticeships are hard and you don't
yeah.
get paid a lot to do them. And now I have apprentices, and is it called the Dunning-Kruger effect, where like
Yes.
the less you know, the more you think you know, and the
Yeah.
same sort of thing applies. So when I was an apprentice, I just wanted to get my hands in there. I thought I knew everything, and now I've been
Yeah.
doing this for 18 years, and I still feel like I know nothing. So
Yeah.
like I feel like your apprenticeship is one of the hardest things you'll ever do. But I'm sure, like similar to like anyone's job, the
Mm,
more you try to master your craft, that
mm.
first part is the hardest part because you think you know everything and you want to know everything.
Yeah, I suppose if I stuff up in my job, the effects are usually not, that visual. Whereas for you, it's like you're like,
Like you
ain't
love
going
it,
back there.
yeah, you're good, you're good. Like,
That'll buff out.
yeah, yeah. But to be honest with you, I love my staff. I've got a great staff.
Mm,
There's 14 of us now, and they're all very
14.
well trained, and like we're really big on just, I think relationships are the
Mm,
reason why I have a fully booked book. Like it is the
yeah,
reason I know. This was one of the things that probably got me onto the show when I was talking to David as well. Was
yeah,
um, I remember everyone's names. I remember
yeah,
everyone's kids' names. I know their kids' names, their
yeah,
dogs' names, that you name it. And it's
yeah,
funny because on the episode that I was on, it's very similar thing happens when you're a hairdresser. When people are like, "Oh, I love your personality," I say, "Thank you, it's yours,"
yeah,
because I will always mirror someone.
yep,
And when Nathan was being a big goofball and being like, "Who's this and this and this?" I'm like, "All right, I'll do your
yeah,
personality too." Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I really, really understand what you're saying because I do the same thing,
Yeah.
and
Oh, you'd have
you
to with
just
your job. Yeah.
yeah, and you listen to me chat to Riri, who I love, she says like a lot, and then I start saying like a lot, or like I do that awful thing where I speak to someone with have an accent, and then like
Oh my God,
I'll
me too.
obviously
Yeah.
like I'll do it, and it's so embarrassing, and you go, I
I'm
don't
like, am
know
I
why
being
I did that.
appropriate right now? Because I'm speaking back to you in a way I probably shouldn't be.
Like
Yeah.
I really wish I could dig myself a hole and disappear in it because I just mimicked your accent and I didn't,
But you
and
have
just
to hold
too
on
hard.
now. Like, you
Yeah.
have to. Did you ever watch that episode of Friends where Ross is like a British professor for a while?
Yeah.
Like, it's like that. You just have to ease out of it back into an Aussie
Uh,
accent.
I know. Yeah, mirroring is it's also a tool. I don't know if you use it
Mm,
on purpose or not, but it's an actual
always
tool.
on purpose. Yeah.
Yeah. I think so. I know that
Yeah.
you're. Yeah, like I think it comes through a mix of experience, but also if you think about what you're doing carefully, you can improve your communication style as well. So I don't see it as like a particularly manipulative thing because I think ultimately mirroring someone shows that you're listening and you are trying to put yourself in their shoes. But
Correct.
so I think that's a good thing. But then also in a game like Survivor, you should be using those skills to try and manipulate the Nathans of the world, and you did. So
And it's one of those hard ones because I was always like, the more you know about communication, the more power
Mm,
you do have. And
mm,
it's just, it's, are you using your power for good or are you using it for evil? Right. So,
mhm,
like, I'm sure you've been watching the debate right now as well, which is like,
mm.
yeah, like, good and evil. We all know who's on
Yeah.
which side there. Um, I hope.
Oh
um,
yeah, I think we're in safe territory here, Frankie.
but yeah, like for me, it's I listen to a lot of podcasts and I love listening to podcasts on persuasion versus manipulation.
Mm, mm.
And I think that's the
Oh, hit
biggest
me,
thing.
hit me. What are
Yeah.
you listening to?
Well, I was listening to, I can't even remember his name now, but I could
Yeah,
pull up my podcast. But
yeah.
I was listening to some stuff on persuasion. There's an entire one on
Mhm.
Spotify.
Oh, you don't
Sorry.
have to. It's all right if you,
But yeah,
but like
there's a whole one
in
on
general
persuasion.
concepts. Yeah.
Well, yeah. So just like manipulation is people doing things against their will, and persuasion is helping people decide.
Yep. Yeah.
And
I
so,
love that.
like, I think that was the biggest thing is because if, for instance, like you told me to do something, Mark, and I did it, and I walk away with a bad taste in my mouth, I'm like,
Mhm,
I don't know why I'm upset, but I'm upset.
mhm.
Whereas if I think it's a good idea with you, which you were quite good at doing with people, if I
Mm.
if I think it's a good idea with you, then it's my idea.
Yeah. Yeah. Mate,
And
I I think you that's why I think you are so good, and which is why you are so threatening to me because I'm like Frankie's good. Frankie's, and this is the exact this concept of persuasion is something that I've spent year year. I've had the opportunity to try and do it. Like I've had a field where I've been able to try these things, but I've also in my own time, just like you, maybe we've listened to the same podcast. I don't know, but I'm also doing the same thing. And yeah, as you say, I've struggled. I think I've been comfortable representing Australia. I think that's putting it to good use. Most of the
yeah,
time. So I'm like, okay, I can sleep well at night. Trying to persuade people for something that I think is good and important. And yeah, but I definitely that's really impressive. And I mean that is what breaks my heart is that we didn't get to see more of that from you because I think you were like awesome at it.
I
So
just think,
yeah,
look, at the end of the day, that first beginning part, everything you're
mm,
doing is a gamble. Like
yeah,
you trying to vote me out was a gamble. You just won.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
and it was a gamble because you don't know the conversations I had with the girls that could have turned
mm,
around and like the swing vote there was these. I didn't know
yeah,
how much you were talking to them. You didn't know how much I was talking to them. And
yeah,
that really could have gone either
yeah,
way if you hadn't
yeah,
gotten there more. And
yeah,
the funny thing is, I spoke to I love therapy, right? I'm a big
hmm,
therapist. And when I spoke to the therapist from the show, he
hmm,
was, before I went on, he was like, I just need to know why you go to therapy so much. And I was like,
hmm.
because I don't have time to deal with my own shit. I need to outsource someone. Like,
Yep.
I'm such a like
Bring in a
delegator.
professional. Bring in a
Yeah.
pro. Yeah. Yep.
Because I can't talk to myself. It's weird. But one of the things that when I was speaking to my therapist about all of this sort of stuff was he said like when we went on the show, and there's such a period of time before we go on the show,
Mm,
and you're so stripped back to just
mhm,
basic animal needs, and you're going to pull
mhm,
out all of this trauma from when you were younger that you may
mhm.
never have resolved. And like
Mhm.
all of that stuff in the beginning, there were parts of me that I don't recognize, like walking up
Mm.
to some of you and being like, "Oh no, I shouldn't talk to them in case they don't like me." Like
Mhm.
little things like that. But everyone, it's so funny when people are like, "You were storming around so confident," where that's what was going on in my brain.
Yeah.
Like, and so it was all a gamble, and it's so fast in the beginning. You know what it's
Uh,
like. Yeah.
oh man, I agree. Oh, it's so funny you say that because it was a massive gamble, and it was really one of those things where it wasn't even going to happen. It wasn't even going to happen, and then I
Yeah.
was like,
Like,
"Fuck
I'll
this,
throw it out there.
let's do it." So, you know, but like good on you for like that's brave of you to talk about your therapy. Like I think it's yeah, it's really important and really useful as well to know yourself better and to know how to handle those emotions because it is such an intense you're bombarded with so many feelings and
Mm,
emotions and then it's bloody on national television which is obviously you know it's a TV show as well, right? It's not you know they're not getting you're not even getting to hear everyone's perspective on it as well. Like
yeah.
I never really signed up to the idea that you were bossing people around. I didn't. Other people, some other people, well, one, not many people said it, but
Yeah.
enough said it, and I'm like, yeah,
Perfect.
that's it,
Yeah.
that's it. So
It
yeah,
was
so
just so it's so funny because it is like
yeah,
such a funny thing. I remember like it's just a funny thing where like that first part is just it is such a gamble, and I wonder what
mm,
like people wouldn't know this, but you and I
mm,
didn't really have a conversation,
no,
and I wonder what would have happened if we did.
yeah,
And if you and I did, this may have been a completely different season, like, because
absolutely,
it was either you and I in the same room, like, doing like they're like, "Well, I've never seen Mark and Batman in the same room at the same time." Like, it's like you and I maybe shouldn't have existed in the same room or existed in the
yes.
same room. Yeah.
I agree. I agree. And like, who knows? You know, who knows? And like some of these things are. It's like what they call what's it called? Path dependence, path
Mm,
dependency. So it's a concept of like you know, like the keyboard on your computer. They
yeah.
like someone decided that that is QWERTY, right? And then, but no one can go back and redo the keyboard because to be more efficient, it's just like that's just the way it is. And I think in Survivor, it's a bit like that as well. Like I just started talking to these handful of people, and you started having chats to these sorts of people, and then our paths was set, kind of thing. But there was no reason or rhyme really for those paths to go in those directions at the start. You know?
Yeah, and I completely get that because I would agree and disagree with that because I
Mm,
knew straight
mm,
away from some time beforehand,
mm.
um, that I was in trouble when Jaden and that were paying attention to me. So
Yeah,
it was like
but that's
I
not
knew,
your choice.
and
Yeah,
I was
that's
like, but like like roles reverse. I was like,
mm,
what do I do? Am I meant to be mean to these people
mm,
and lose potentially 3 votes?
yeah,
And so I was like, I'm gonna just have to roll with that because they've
yeah,
chosen me.
yeah,
And I was like, and then try to see what I can do with that. And it's so funny because my version of that beginning part was that I um I was actually trying to be less myself.
yeah.
Like I'm a full turbo. Like and you would have seen parts where I was talking into my mics where I was like, "Who's setting the fucking fire up?" Or like, I know that's me talking to myself, but I am, yeah. I was trying to be less myself because I know
Mm,
that I come on strong. I'm very self aware. Like I know that I come
mm,
on strong. I know I'm not easy to like for everyone in the beginning, but people tend
mm,
to warm up for me. These were all things I knew about myself. So you did
yeah.
get there. You got in there in the right time because you probably would have been in trouble if people got to know me.
Yeah, well, look, I'm gonna give myself a pat on the back there.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Same up, same like
Oh, that's a really cool chat. I just there's one thing I wanted to ask about hairdressing in Survivor. Like, there's a really nice link in US Survivor. There's a recent winner who was a hairdresser.
yeah,
You know, it's such a so you're simultaneously running a salon. I love the word salon as well. Like, but
yeah.
I think it's
We
a
call
really
it a
cool word.
studio because I actually
Oh,
I pulled the word salon out. Interesting thing just about marketing, but I pulled the
mm,
word salon out because I really didn't want to have my first name or my last name's Guascoine, which like no
mhm.
one can pronounce. Soon to be
Okay.
Couchy if you hadn't seen before.
Oh,
Yeah,
congratulations.
thank
Woo.
you.
Give us a look. Show us the bling. Show us the
So
bling.
this is it's half his grandmother's ring and then half a new ring. So I thought that was
Oh
fun and
my
nice. Yeah.
gosh. That
So
is nice.
very
Soon
sentimental.
to be what, sorry?
Couchy.
Couchy. That's cute
Yeah,
as well.
so proper Maltese last name.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
But yeah, so like I did all this minimalist sort of like if you've ever had a chance to see my salon, it's
Mm,
stunning.
mm,
Because my marketing went in on the let's make it beautiful. Let
mm.
people know it's expensive before they walk in. Let people
Yeah,
know it's luxury, right?
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, like I called it a studio because I wanted it to seem a little bit more upmarket. But tell you
Mm.
what, that bit me in the ass so hard with marketing
Oh,
because you don't realize how bad that like affects your SEOs and stuff. So just
right.
call it a damn
Yeah.
salon.
I like the idea of the word salon, like a French salon or something, where it's like
Mm,
really like old school, not for hairdressing, but that idea of like
that's a
you don't really
look.
know. Yeah, I don't really know what even happens in a salon, but it's like I assume like fancy
I could have
drinks,
made some
maybe some
serious
smoke.
jokes then, Mark. Like I could you?
So true. I also I have scrolled your I have looked into your studio
Yeah,
and the cut you've got like a lot of terracotta. Is
yeah.
that like oh man, it looks so good. And then in that intro package you're wearing like a tan sort of jacket with a white top with the terracotta in the background. They're like all my colors and that's like the vibe. Oh, it looks so good. So yeah.
I picked that on purpose because I was a big Aesop fan. Every time I went into
Mm.
Aesop, I felt calm. And
Mhm.
I thought, like salons can be quite intimidating. And my
Mhm.
brain went to how can I make this a little more pleasant experience for people? So
Yeah.
I kind of took that sort of drive from Aesop and made it really earthy tones.
Yeah.
Mm.
That's mate, I painted our bathroom here and we had the exact same sentence. I had that conversation with my wife. It's like, I want it to look nice, but also comfortable. So ASOP, we literally
Yeah,
do exactly.
and
Oh my
I've got
God.
Aesop. I feel like they've done their marketing well because
They
I'm
have.
like, oh, I just want to feel relaxed. Aesop.
ASOP, ASOP.
Yeah,
Yeah. The most expensive hand wash on the market.
literally.
Hey, it's paying off for your business. You are an award-winning hairdresser as well, though, right? Like is that
I
right?
back in the day, I used to do a lot of competitions and things like that, where we would
Mhm.
do a lot of like color comps and things like that. But as
Okay.
my time went on, I worked for some of the most like very large hairdressers, like Australian hairdressers of the year and stuff. And I've
Mm.
worked in some very big award-winning salons. But for me, when I opened my own salon, I don't know how I should. I'm wondering if I should say this or not. But when I opened my own salon, I wanted to have a successful business, not just in a
Mhm.
monetizing type of way, but I wanted to
Mhm.
have a successful business and I wanted to give my staff a career. And I
Mhm.
felt like our industry doesn't get taken very seriously sometimes. So I really wanted to make sure it was a place that people felt like they had, a strong workplace.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
So
maybe
I
if you
stepped
weren't
away from the
shooting
board.
yeah, so if you weren't
Yeah.
shooting for maybe more I don't know. I'm thinking of like modeling here. Like, like models in catwalk fashion, you're like, I ain't ever gonna
Yeah.
wear any of those clothes. You know?
Yeah.
Like
High fashion and things like that. So we do a
Yeah.
lot more now. Like I work a lot with influencers and content
Mhm.
creators and things like that now. It's quite a funny thing because it like being in Bondi, every second person's been on TV,
Mm.
and now I'm like, oh wait, I was on TV, but like I like so it just is the way it is. But I
Mhm.
work with a lot of more influencers and content creators now than I ever would do
Mm.
editorial anymore.
Okay.
But that's just because life takes a different route. Like you were talking
Yeah.
about your job earlier with me, but
Mm.
I'm like I want to get married. I want to have a baby. I'm
Yeah.
34.
Yeah.
Like it's time for my life to slow down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I want to. You were talking a bit about Bondi, but you weren't always from Bondi, Frankie. Where were you? Where's the OG Frankie come from?
Oh, so I grew up in Penrith. And
Okay.
I moved from suburb to suburb to suburb. I've done my time in Mount Druitt, St Mary's, Penrith,
Well, represent.
Warrington, yeah, like you name it, I've been there.
Yeah.
Um, I probably lived out there until I was about 17, and then I
Hmm.
moved out of home and tried to get a job in the city and lived in
Yeah.
the inner east ever since. Yeah,
Yeah.
I did a
Yeah.
stint
Yeah.
in Melbourne for a little bit, but
Mhm.
um, yeah, but I was originally from out west.
Yeah, nice. I love it. Another little hidden fact that people don't know about. And I've done my research and I listened to a podcast that you did after Survivor, and you said that you were a theater kid and you're into
Yes.
music. Tell the
Yes.
people about this because they need to know.
So I played the flute and did musical theatre growing up. So
Yeah.
that's what I loved doing. I was actually quite an overweight kid, so
Mhm.
I didn't like being on the schoolyard so much. And I
Mhm.
also was the kid in, I had holes in my clothes. I got teased for being a little bit poor. So
Mhm.
but I just spent a lot of my time in the music rooms
Mhm.
and did a lot of music. So that's when I got together with all the theatre kids and played the flute, played I could never dance. I could
Mhm.
but I could sing and I loved doing that and I found like that was my good little escape from school.
That's cool. Did you go? I also same theater and music. Did you ever go on band camp or like on
Yeah,
music
oh
camp
yeah,
away?
100%. Yeah.
That is
100%.
so much fun. I love band camp. I think it's
I
awesome.
loved it. I loved it because I grew up I had a lot of kids in my house. So I grew up, I've got two sisters in the house and a brother, but I have another sister on my dad that lives with my dad. But
Mhm.
yeah, so I grew up in a very noisy house and
Mm.
my sister always had a lot of friends. She was more popular and then I have a
Mhm.
younger sister and stuff. So probably similar to you, I liked going to band camp because I got to hang out
Yeah.
with people who did like-minded things and
Yeah.
I
And
remember only good things about doing that. Yeah.
that's awesome. So you were
What did you
also the
play?
middle. So you were the middle of three. Like out of the girls, you were the middle
I'm
girl.
the middle. Yeah.
I'm the middle boy, Frankie.
Yeah. I'm the
I started off on the violin in grade. Well,
Oh, the
actually, no.
violin's one of my
I,
favorite.
I
I
s-
love the
well,
violin.
yeah. Well, when I was a little kid, I played like I learned on piano, but I don't really know if that counts. But the
Yeah.
first one was violin, and then in grade 5, I was the only kid able to switch instruments, and I got to do the drums, which is what I really wanted to do. I have my
Yeah,
drumming
I was gonna
background.
say, looking behind you.
Yeah, and so, but it was like drums and percussion, so it was xylophone, timpani.
Oh, that's awesome.
Like I was in a percussion ensemble, which is the
Yeah.
nerdiest thing you've ever seen. But it's awesome. It's so
But
good.
they also
Uh,
run the band. I don't think
yeah,
people realize how much, but I got forced into seeing my well, I wanted to go, but I got forced into seeing my niece. She's literally me.
yeah.
She was in cheerleading and she turned around to her mum and she goes, "Nah, I want to play the trombone." And I
Oh,
was like, so she's
you're
now
like
joined
legend.
well, she joined the
Yes.
school band and I went and watched
How
all
good
these
is being an auntie? It's so
I
much
love
fun.
I love it so much, and I love going to these things because, like, my parents didn't come a lot to these things, and so
Mhm.
I love going and telling her how proud I am and watching her with this
Oh,
big trombone, and she's like it's like double the size of her.
I love the
But,
trombone. It's such a comedic instrument. You're
she's
like,
an 8-year-old,
"Whoa."
you
Yeah.
like
Oh,
but yeah,
awesome.
no, it's, so that runs in the family. My dad plays guitar as well. My mum was a
Oh,
dancer,
nice.
so there's a lot of,
Okay.
like, music in my family, yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Oh, that's really cool. Well, I love that. Man, we have so much in common. It's not even funny.
That's
And
why I was like, we would have been like, it's probably good that we either would have gotten together and then gotten in trouble or would have
yeah.
gotten kicked out. Like,
Oh my god. You're a gamer. What
yeah.
games do you play?
I really like RPG games because
Yeah.
I find that like anything that I can really immerse myself into a world,
Mhm.
I find it the most meditative thing that I can do.
Yep.
I've got a very busy brain, and I think sitting down playing games is the only time that I have to set an actual timer on my phone.
Yeah. Right.
Otherwise, I could sit there for hours and hours and
Just get
hours.
carried away.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
like being able to build a world, I think. I think that sort of stuff really, really interests me. But my favorite game recently was probably God of War. I played the
Oh
most
yeah.
recent one, and I really liked that. But I loved the first one. The first one was
Mhm.
really good. And Horizon Zero Dawn, I just played the recent one of that as well. But see,
Yeah.
like it's
Yeah.
like that whole build a world and like explore and
Mhm.
MMOs. I loved a lot of Final Fantasy growing up too.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. There were so many Final Fantasies. Like it
yeah,
was a never-ending stream of them. It's like there's another one. Oh yeah,
yeah.
okay.
Did you ever play them?
No, I wasn't allowed to. So I wasn't allowed to play
Oh,
games. But I, at one point, I was chatting with Eden, and my granddad bought a Sega Mega Drive against my parents' wishes, and so that was awesome. I got to play that. And then one
yeah.
day, one of my big first purchases was a PlayStation, like I worked my butt off, and then, you know, like as a, I don't know, 16-year-old, I'm like, I'm buying a PlayStation 1 whether you like it or not, and I just went out and bought one. So but I never had that but I was always doing so many things, so I never was really a big gamer. But my wife loves Zelda and other
Oh,
other
yeah.
games as well. But yeah, she plays Zelda and other farming games, and it's very similar sort of thing. She has a stressful
Simulation sort
job.
of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I can go and escape myself in this big world, and yeah, and so yeah, she plays games too, and yeah, we also like play like a lot of board games and stuff as well. So
I love board games as well. Like if I'm
yeah.
trying to relax on my phone at the moment, I play those stupid Diner Dash ones where you have to like
Yes.
feed people and stuff.
Yeah.
And like quickly running a business on my phone and then running a business in real life. I'm like, what am I doing? This is how I relax.
Oh,
But
there's one really good. I forgot what it's called. You got to like chop, and like someone's chopping, and you got to like work in a kitchen together. Oh my goodness, I'm blanking. It's so much fun, but it's like a guaranteed way to yell at your mates because you've got to work in a team and like in a kitchen. And yeah, we should play that. It'd be fun. Oh,
yeah, so
goodness.
I know, but I don't get much time to do it as much anymore. But I go through phases of like, if I've had a really stressful time, I'm like, I need a downtime, and I'll give myself an hour and do that. And my partner, he loves trading, so he's like, yeah, go for it, and he'll just trade on the computer. So like,
oh, like stock trading.
Yeah.
Oh wow, so many interests. That's so cool.
Yeah, we've got very deep. Like it was so funny. This is so random, but we one of my partners what are they called? Clients. She's on a current affair. Her name's Effie, and the other day she asked us to come on a current affair.
Oh.
And to talk finance, and I've never had to lie my way through something in my life.
You're like, I think you need to be talking to my partner, not me. Like, no, Frankie.
We're both
What's
there
your bonds or stocks? What do you think?
We were both there on the way in. I said, "What's capital gains tax?" Like, quick, tell me. Like, I need to know. And like,
yeah, you haven't been to enough middle-age dinner parties, Frankie.
No,
Negative gearing. What the fuck is that?
Yeah.
There's nothing worse than the real estate chat at a middle-aged party. Like, shoot me now. It's just the worst.
Oh, you must get a lot of things like that when you were in your job. Like, yeah, well, like you obviously you would be around a lot of middle-aged people talking about corporate jobs.
Like you just adapt. Like some people are again unexpected. You never really know. Like you know, within the Australian public service, you know, everyone's kind of got, you know, usually they're in a pretty good job. They've got like some interests, but then when you go overseas, you'll meet some really important person, like really important person, and then all of a sudden. I remember this one Thai politician was obsessed with seafood, which is kind of normal, but like he was obsessed, and he would say, "Mark, we've got better seafood Thailand's got better seafood than Australia." And I was like, mate, I'm from bloody North Queensland. You should see the size of our mud crabs. And I pick up my phone and in Thai I put in like mud crab, and we're just there. And it was like we spoke about mud crabs for about 20 minutes, and the ambassador was looking at me like, "Mark, what the hell are you talking about?"
We actually got something to do here.
No. Most of it, I was like, I wouldn't say I was the personality high, but sometimes at those lunches, I was invited to just kind of keep the chat going. But unfortunately, like my chat about
that's so good though, because like there are certain times that you need, like you should be hired at parties, like you should be hired at weddings, like just keep the chat going. Grab my mum and like couch his Mark in the middle. Like.
Oh mate, put me with some mums. Oh god, a few little Pinot Grigios, and we're good to go. Yeah. So So I don't even know how I got onto that, but
no, it's interesting because interestingly, like segueing this into weightlifting for a sec, but my partner owns 2 gyms, so that's what he does for a living. But between the two of us, we own 3 businesses. Don't ask me why. What? Like I actually genuinely am like, this is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, but cool, let's open another one.
And you're about to get married. Oh man, you're married. Your wedding's going to be planned it's going to be really well planned. I think.
Well, I'm a big believer in all of my life that if I can't rate myself more than an 8 out of 10, it's not my job. So I outsource. Like I've got a wedding planner. Like, you know, I'm like giving back to different communities here. Like, let me put some money into a wedding planner. But
I hope it's someone from Bondi. You walk past and you're like, I want you to play my wedding. And you're like,
yeah. Well, like if it was up to me, it'd be my PA. She's wonderful. But she needs to stay at the salon. So we're getting married in Thailand, actually.
Oh, whereabouts?
Yeah, we're getting married in Koh Samui.
Oh my goodness, that's where the crab man's from.
I'll give you a call beforehand, and I'll be like, "Where am I find this?" But yeah,
So your partner's got, or your fiance has 2 gyms.
Yeah, so 2 CrossFit gyms. So
Wow.
that's what we do. We do a lot of Olympic weightlifting, gymnastics, and high intensity.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, well, I knew that you did something with your hands on Survivor, because when we were on the big boat, we weren't allowed to talk, but because we were filming before the game had started, and I was just trying to get any scrap of information that I could, and I was checking you out. We'll get to your tattoos later, but your hands have these calluses on them, and I was like,
and that's the thing, neat. Like they get so gross. Sorry, guys, if you want to have a
go zoom in,
they get so gross. Yeah.
But it wasn't like I wasn't grossed out, but I was just like, okay, like interesting. Yeah. You got to be doing something. And then you told me that you did Olympic weightlifting, and I was like, okay, I have no idea what that is. And then Viola was like, oh, that's like different to the weightlifting that I do. And then I was terrified that you were going to bond over weightlifting. But yes, tell us what is. But I remember, get her out. I remember you explaining to me what Olympic weightlifting is. But like, tell us what it is, because it seems quite technical. And that,
so
I found that interesting.
Really interestingly, my coach just went to the Olympics and represented Australia. So shout out to Carl Bruce. He did a great job. But nice. It just means that you move the weight from the floor to above your head in 2 movements, one to shoulder, one to above, which is called a clean and jerk. And then the other one is moving from the ground to above your head in 1 movement, which is called a snatch.
That looks hard.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's so technical. It takes a lot of breaking things down. Like we were doing it recently, and it's a lot of mundane, repetitive movements, which Viola would shout out for as well, because I used to do powerlifting, and so it's very, very similar sort of thing. But I feel like I got into fitness because I was quite overweight when I was younger, and I just needed to do something that really got my steam out. So I was actually doing powerlifting until I was in Melbourne, and one of my PTs was saying to me, "You're a little bit crazy, aren't you? I reckon you'd like CrossFit." And so that's
you've got that twinkle in your eye. You're ready for this.
Like, you've got that competitive nature. Let's get you in here. Shoved me in, and then that's what we do now. Which is it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of hard. I've met so many amazing people there, and they always say if you move to a new place, always go to a CrossFit. It's like the way you make friends. It's such, especially people like yourself, like quite high achieving people who are running on this sort of energy all the time. They all seem to go into a CrossFit. Okay. So
maybe I should try it out.
You should. It is so fun. Like every single person there is so different. Like I have people in my class who are 67 years old. I do have somebody in my class who's a political lawyer, another one that works in government. There's a lot of different people who across the board that in any other walk of life we would have never come together. My best friend that I met there, he's actually he's 43 years old and a doctor. Where would we have met?
Yeah.
But we have
it's the great equalizer. It's the great equalizer. You're there to work out, and it doesn't really matter where you're from. You're all there just to get fit. It's really interesting you say that, because you have talked about the community at a gym. I've heard Jaden talk about it. He was saying how strongman, it's a very intimidating thing, but they just want to help you learn about being a strongman. And then Viola's story about her community that's associated with her gym, it's incredible. So, and then before Survivor, I stepped foot inside the door, which is behind the door there is a gym. And, I was like, what's behind here? And I like it. And so now I'm still going, and I really like it. There's a few nice people in there. I'm not super social in there, but it's a good community, and everyone's there's these little old ladies that come in, and there's some big dudes. So it is a good mix. So I do like it a lot. But I think CrossFit could be a good option too.
CrossFit's a good one because it's quite intimidating. A lot of people think it's quite intimidating because there's a lot of movements you can't do off the bat. But I love giving challenges like that where people are like, you walk in there and if you go in on the wrong day for your first time, you'll see a bunch of people walking on their fucking hands, and you'll be like, where have I got myself and doing muscle ups? But like that's like the small like 3%ers in there, the crazy people who like doing comps and stuff. But everyone's there to like, they'll cheer you on the first time you get something. They'll have coffee with you afterwards. Like I have a lot of, like, I've got a very good community there. It's where I met my partner as well. But
oh, nice.
Yeah. So, but the thing is, I always think like it is an incredibly rare thing and an incredible gift to make friends as an adult.
It's so true.
I think like when you go do these things, you're now going to meet people who have like-mindedness as you. And I think it is one of those things, like you'll find your people in a gym. Everyone should be working out anyway. It's not going to do anything horrible for you. I'm not telling you to go take heroin down the street and meet friends down there.
Yeah. I need to make some new friends. I'm going to take up the hardest drugs there are.
Nothing bonds you like that. But yeah, like it's one of those things that it really does it gets you a community of people that you just, as an adult, like honestly, at our wedding, I would say 30 guests are from our gym.
Oh, that's cool. Oh, well, I was actually going to ask how you met your fiance, and there you go, at the gym. That's really cute. Before Survivor, I want to talk a little bit of a segue here to Survivor, and I don't think I've told anyone this. I went to a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu like club. I don't even know what they're called, a club. And I started doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu because I remember, like, often in Australian Survivor, the challenges are so tough. And I wanted to be able to, and I played rugby union when I was younger, but it's been quite a few years. And I'd been going to the gym, but I wanted to like just take a hit. And so I went to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu quite a bit. And I was getting smashed. It was so hard, but it was so much fun.
They love it. They love it there. I know they're a league of their own as well. Yeah.
Have you been? Have you tried?
I used to be a Muay Thai fighter. So
no way.
Yeah, I did a lot of that, but then it was really affecting my hands and I actually broke my nose. And that's when I started doing any type of fitness. But it was just like, I used to see the jiu-jitsu people and they were in a league of their own.
Oh yeah, it was good. And they were really, they asked me like, why are you here? I'm like, I can't really say, but I'll tell you later. And then I got squashed.
Just hit me. Let me figure this out.
Yeah. And then they squashed one of my ribs and I kind of hurt. I seriously hurt a rib. And then I was like, okay, I need to stop because I don't want to injure myself like at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu just before I go on. But it definitely gave me some confidence for by taking a hit and a few of those challenges that I did one. But so Frankie, that's the segue is, what is your relationship with Survivor and how did you prepare for the show? Like if in terms of mental and physical?
One of the big ones for me was like physically, I actually pulled back the weightlifting a little bit and I worked on stability because I wanted to work on like shoulder stability. I worked on handstands. I worked on holding things for long because I can do rope climbs, right? So this is a thing where I was like, so one of the things, one of the exercises we do is climbing ropes legless. So I was like, this is where I would have obviously had a lot of advantages in certain things. And I can do muscle ups. And so when we were doing that thing over the wall, Nate knew what was in CrossFit. So he's like, can you just go over that? And I was like, yeah, props. Like, and so I was, but I was like, I'm not going to do it because I didn't want anyone to know that I was didn't work for me anyway. But no, I did a lot more things like that. But interestingly, because I know you're a good swimmer, because I remember talking to you about being like swimming. Interesting, I'm a terrible swimmer.
Right.
And
okay.
I was really, really nervous about that element. And one of the things I did was try to get as many laps in as I possibly could. Now, when we had to obviously we had a few fitness tests going on, one of the ones being a swim test, I had gone the day before and I was practicing. And I'm not going to say how long it is because I know we're not meant to, but it wasn't a really long swim test and I was panicking and I really got in my head and I had a full-on panic attack and I swam out of the pool. And interestingly, it was actually the place that I had the test, so I probably shouldn't have cause such a scene there.
Oh,
But I
wow.
swam out of the pool and I was like, I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do this. And my partner was like, you have to. And I'm like, I have to. Like, you can't fake swimming.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
I
it.
fake swimming, I die. Like,
Yeah, yeah. You sink to the bottom. Yeah.
yeah. So I remember doing, I just jumped in and I just fucking did it. And
Yeah.
my partner actually calls me his fish now because of that, which is
Oh,
but, um
dude,
and
you
then
and Viola Viola couldn't
I,
swim.
I remember chatting to her about this when I was there.
Oh
She
my
fucking taught
gosh.
herself to swim.
I know, I know.
Mm,
It's like not being able to swim, I think, is possibly the scariest. Like out
it's
of
hard.
like going in there, you don't really know what you're gonna have to do, but you're gonna like being slow at running or something. It just means that you're marginally behind. But I think
Yeah,
not being confident in the water, it
it
just
makes
is
me panic.
overwhelming, right? Yeah, it's panicky. Yeah,
Mm.
so I think that's
Because
totally
interestingly, like if I jump off a boat and I have to swim into shore, I'm fine. But I did
mm,
get caught in a rip a few years ago, and ever since then, I just panic, and I panic at all times in the water now.
right. Yeah,
And like I would be fine, but if panicking, you don't want to be panicking in the water. Like
yeah,
that is the most
yeah.
dangerous place to panic. And then the most interesting thing was I remember like so on the way to that test, I
Mhm.
was like got up early and I was like, you can do this, you can do this. And I was on the way to that test and I got into a huge car accident. And
That's right.
I got
Oh,
woman literally T-boned my car
that's right.
across and I got into a huge car accident. I was like my first ever car accident. I literally
Yeah.
left my car on the side of the road, went and did this swim. Then when everything kind of caught up with me, just I bawled my eyes out.
That
Yeah.
swimming pool has got it in for you, man. Oh
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah.
I
Never
remember
swimming
you
again.
telling us about. Yeah, bloody hell. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so you're working on your swimming. What about mental? Like what have you are you you know did you apply? Like have you watched Survivor a lot? Like what's your how did you
This
prepare
so
mentally?
I have watched all the survivors. I just
Mhm.
didn't tell you guys that when I was there because I already knew that I was going to be a threat.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I was a big fan. And
Mhm.
so I wasn't as much a big fan, probably like, I'm going to say after they did Winners at War in
Mhm.
America, I probably
Yeah.
started, like, I didn't really go into the new era. I've seen a couple of them.
Same here, same here.
Yeah. But like, I, I, this is, this is not me bragging. This is
Mhm.
just who I am as a person. I
Mhm.
was like, I should go on. And I'm like, and I was like, if I want to go on, I'll get on.
Yep.
And it's not that easy for most people. And it's not that it's that easy for me, but I
Mhm.
just know I've been told many, many times, like personality wise, I have no problem talking to a camera, things like that.
Mhm.
And I'm not gonna reveal any sources, but I knew for a
Mhm.
very long time that I was going on. And so
Oh,
like
okay.
and one of the ways was because I picked up off, and this is obviously why David probably liked me, but I picked up
Mhm.
off David when the first time I met him.
Mhm.
He was saying to me, if you were to be cast, if you were to be cast, if you were to be cast. And by the end of our interview, he said, when you're on.
Yeah.
And I was like, sweet, I'm on. And so
Done.
like he didn't realize he did that, but that I'm really good at picking up on things like that. And I was like,
Yeah.
sweet, I'm on. He accidentally changed his words. And
Yeah.
yeah. And
It's a
then
no-brainer.
so
You were
I was
also you
very
sorry, I was
yes.
just gonna say that, I heard that you were I heard that you were, and it's obvious, like you're so castable. And I remember being out there, you were keeping your. I didn't want to say too much about being a fan of the show either,
Yeah.
but there was one thing that you said once, and it was like they would normally do this, and
Yeah.
and I like no one else. I don't know if any other people heard it. I'm not sure,
Mm.
but I was like, Frankie's a fan. I don't know how much she's a fan, but she's a fan because I heard you. I think it was like they wouldn't like they know. Yeah, it was like they normally do this, and then Eden like was like blah, 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 or someone else jumped in, and I was like, oh, Frankie, he's a fan because I
'Cause
was.
it's so hard. I'm such a nurturing person, and
Mm,
it was a really hard one for me because I was trying to sit back and I was trying to
Mm,
not come across too cold or too bossy or too confident, but I
mhm,
can't fake insecurity. And that's the one thing. Like
mm,
when people say I'm confident, it's not that I'm confident about everything I do in terms of I love everything about myself. It's
mhm.
I'm confident because I'm self-aware of my
Yep,
flaws, like myself anyway. I'm self-aware that
absolutely.
I'm a chatterbox or I talk over people or I interrupt people and I try to work on it, but I'm not like it's not a quality I love about myself, but I know it's there. And I
Yep.
think this was the thing that you can't fake insecurity. So even though I tried to like pull myself back a little bit,
Mm,
every single person was like, she's
mm,
too confident. She's like,
mm.
even like when I would talk to the psychologist, he's like, you hold yourself too high. I would encourage you next time to sit down. Like it
It's
was
so
just like the
hard, man.
littlest
It's
thing. I was like, fuck, okay, I didn't even realize I did that. Yeah.
dude, in any other if you were to run a simulation, you could
Mm.
like seriously, it's just
If we hadn't lost that first challenge.
yeah, it could have been so different. Because I also think that it's good to be yourself. Like you've, mate, when you were talking about knowing that you're going to get on, I was the same. I was
Mm.
like, not because it's cockiness, it's just like, I think I can offer them something that's interesting here.
Yeah.
And I think that maybe it'll come down to a mix of people. And Sass, my wife, was like, Mark, you can't say that. I'm like, well, look, I'm not saying I'm gonna get on, but I just think that I'm gonna offer them something that'll be appealing. And then
Yeah.
when you're the thing is that I think this is a gender issue a bit in the start of Survivor,
Unfortunately,
which
so do
is
I. Yeah.
which is that I could be myself and be calm. My natural confident state is calm and
Mm.
engaging people, and you're getting told by different people, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, and you're bouncing those decisions around in your head at the same time, whereas I was just like, I didn't have to worry about that as much. And I think that is I think there's a gender element to that as well,
Well,
because
and I'm
yeah.
so sorry if Jess is listening to this, but I thought Jess was shooting herself enough in the foot for
Mm,
me to go unnoticed. So that's
mm,
why I didn't scramble too much in that beginning part because I was
yeah,
like, I don't want to play the game too much right now. Nathan
yeah.
has told me that he's going to talk to people. Little did I know the things he was saying. But like I was like, I'm just gonna kind of sit back and make Nathan look like he's running whatever's going on.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and I think everyone else thought he was, but you realized he wasn't. And so like I think that was how that went there. But I
Yeah.
thought Jess would do you know, I'll tell you something actually quite interesting that you probably won't know, but you might
Mm,
hear from Nathan later, is
mm,
that the thing about Nathan is I adore that man.
mm.
Um,
I do too. I really
I
like
needed him
Nathan
to get
too.
the fuck out of my game because I
Mm,
knew that him being around because he didn't want to play, like he wanted to play, but he wasn't a huge fan. And I was like, he's
yeah.
gonna ruin this for me. But the thing is, he's more switched on than people give him credit for because there was a
Mm,
part but before we had to go off into tribal where he
mm,
turned to me and he was like, let's just use Jess.
mhm.
And he had started the whole exactly what you guys were doing, but I'm not going to say whose name he threw out, but he was like, let's just use Jets. And he's like,
Yeah.
why don't you turn this around now? And he started doing the moves on that. And then we had to
Mm,
call it in. And he was like, screw
mm,
it, let's go back to original. So Nathan
mhm.
was doing all the running around and whatever. And I let him do it, but I hadn't realized that you'd already used Jess. Yeah. So,
Man, we're like ships in the night here.
this is the funny thing people don't realize as well either.
Mm,
Is I knew I was going. I had this
mm,
big inkling I was going, and it was because I'd actually turned around to Viola,
mm.
and she's a very bad liar. And she's a sweetheart. Like she's
She
just the
is.
sweetest person. And I had turned around to her and I had said to her as a test, I said,
Mm,
"Hey babe, will you braid my hair tonight?" And
mhm.
she panicked. And
Oh,
I turned around to Nathan and was like, "I think they're voting me out." And
oh,
so, because she was like, "Oh, yeah, 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 yeah." And I was like, "Something's happened." And now I can't
yeah.
talk to anyone. And that's why
Oh,
you'll see me just constantly looking at you guys. And I noticed that Carol and that was sitting on the other side of tribal. And I was like,
mm,
they're going to vote me out. But if I'm wrong and I stand up, I'm
mm.
about to make a fool of myself, episode 1. So I just have to sit here and take it.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you can stand up and chuck a fit, episode 1. I couldn't. It wouldn't have worked for me as myself. You know what I mean?
I mean, there's no. I get annoyed when people say you should do this or you shouldn't do this because it's
Mm.
really hard. It's
Yeah.
really hard. You don't. You're just going. you're picking up information and then you're going, oh, maybe I should do this. And yeah, then everyone's like, oh, you should never, don't tell anyone that you find an idol, or like, don't change the votes at tribal. Every single rule gets broken. Every
Oh,
single rule gets
everything I
broken.
wanted to do was out of the window the moment I cried the
Yeah.
first day I got there because I missed my partner. I was like, where the
Aw.
fuck did that come from? Because I was like, everyone thinks it's been 24 hours, little do they know. Like I remember like all of these little things just go out and you tried it and you're already hungry, you're already tired.
Yeah.
You don't understand how tired you are or how long
Mm,
you've been kept waiting. And
mm.
and then people don't realize how long you've kept waiting. So then as soon as you're talking to each other, we're a bunch of ferals. We're like,
Yeah.
and like, so I do think it's a way when you're going a million miles an hour for the short period of time you have, you're more
Mm,
likely to offend someone. You're more
yeah.
likely to get offended. You're more likely to do things that like you probably would have taken more care about in real life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, how did you find, so this is interesting. Like, because it gives people a sense of how hard it is. You were tired and hungry, like from your
2
time out
days.
there.
Yeah, and I'm
It's
tired and I was
it's
tired
rough.
and hungry. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
And
rough. It's so rough.
I feel like I remember I remember almost passing out on like day 2. And
Mm,
I think surely like you were there for ages, it gets easier because you kind of just like your body's just going to have to adapt. But
yeah,
like detoxing from food essentially. But um, I couldn't sleep. I was freezing because I was in full denim, remember? And it was raining that
yeah,
night. And I was like,
yeah.
oh, this was not a choice. And I was spooning Eden, like I don't know where the rumors came from because Caroline's Eden and I spooning in tight. Um, but, but yeah, and you don't sleep. Like that's the
Yeah,
one thing people don't realize. So you like when everyone can say you can do this and you can do that, and I
yeah,
would have done this differently. But
yeah,
guys, we eat ourselves up about it enough.
yeah.
Like
Totally.
I think people don't realize like just how much you already do that to yourself for the first couple of
Mm,
months that you leave.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to get to that in a second, but you've mentioned the denim. I want to talk about outfit because you're a fashionable person. Did you pick denim? But I also want to know if you'd gotten longer in the game. What were your other items of clothing? Like what else had you packed? Like what were you
So
planned?
I'm so glad I didn't because mine was sarong bikini. So there was
Okay.
2 things there, and then I had a nice warm jumper and a
Yeah.
pair of tie-dye purple tracky dacks.
Okay.
Because I
Okay.
was like, I need something to sleep in or something that I
Mm,
could like obviously turn into. The denim thing came from both me and producers. So that one was a
okay.
hard one because I was like, yeah, I could double denim it.
Yeah.
Why did I think I could double that is the coldest, wettest clothes that I had ever and the
It doesn't dry.
that you get, the chafing you get. I remember Jaden, Nathan and I walking around pretending to be cowboys at one point. This is
Yeah.
why we got in trouble because we were doing shit like that.
Yeah, the chafing was horrendous. Yeah, denim. I remember your clothes didn't dry. I remember Eden's
Never.
jeans didn't dry. Yeah,
It was
Kitty.
awful,
I
awful.
think she had a denim jacket. Yeah, it was terrible.
But I had
Yeah.
I had a sparkly bikini, purely because it actually has something to do with like Shawnee used the same similar one, and someone had said like, yeah, go with the sparkly bikini.
Okay.
Um, but it was for me, it was they would have always been more practical, but you don't think about how cold it is at night.
Yeah,
It's an
it's
interesting thing. I'm actually hiking Patagonia in January, and I
no
keep thinking
way.
the fact that I've got to sleep in a tent in the snow, and I'm like, no, you want to you really want to rug up because I did one night. And one of my best friends, he was on this show called $1 Million Island.
Oh yeah, I know that show.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
he's hiking with me as well. And so we were like, no, we're failed reality TV. We know what not to do. Like,
Yeah, if we've learned anything, rock up.
yeah.
Yeah. What was it like? What was the trip to Samoa like? The nerves, the sort of that little magical period between leaving your family and your loved ones, and then about to start the game. How were you coping with that?
I was trying to judge people as much as I could. You can tell,
Mhm.
like I knew who was going to be on the show. but without trying to put too much attention up. Here's the really funny thing about it's so like what people don't expect of me. But I am such a rule follower. Like, so I was trying not to make too much eye contact. I was trying to make sure not to get myself in trouble. And it can come across as quite aloof. And then if I was to ever play again, I'd probably get like sneaky winks and little things like that in there. But I was just in my own world. I was doing puzzles, which I also know got me into a little bit of trouble off Eden, because I forgot about this actually. Eden came up to me and whispered in my ear that I was a triple threat.
What?
We forgot about this. And he was like, yeah, you're fit. You're talking to a lot of people. And I saw you doing puzzles on the plane. And not like just trying to figure out what 1 + 2 was,
Eden, the sneaky bastard, but then he called it out. That's aggressive.
Yeah,
it's
aggressive from Eden. I actually completely forgot about that. He's like, I think you're a triple threat. And I was like, well, I can sing, dance, and act. Like,
have you heard of Hugh Jackman? Wow. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, so you were like, but maybe also because you're a fan of the show as well. And I've got this in me as a bit too. You know, you're like, I don't want to get in trouble because I don't want to spoil my opportunity kind of thing.
Yeah. And I just that was the thing, right? And you may have had the same situation happen, but like I was getting on with the producers and the cameramen and all these different people. I have a few people who have been on TV that come to my salon, and they're always like, be friends with the cameraman.
Yeah. Yeah.
You want your show to be broken, like just remember there's people everywhere.
Yeah. For those listening, we're not really allowed. There are limits to what we can do, but you can just be a nice person. I would say. Yeah.
That's what we definitely can't talk to them. That's why you forget they're kind of there. But there was a time I was walking through the jungle. And they're like going back at like 400 miles an hour, tripping over rocks and shit like that. So like if they fall, pick them up. We mean like that sort of stuff. Like don't just leave them there and walk over. Like,
you should have seen him run when I was running after that box. Oh my gosh.
Oh, yeah. I did see that episode actually. I did see it. So.
All right, well let's talk about episode 1. How did you watch it? Was it with
at home? I'm a very I know my limits, and I know that I can panic and I can get some anxiety sometimes. So for me, I had to be at home in a comfortable space, and it was just me and my partner, and we just watched it together. And I actually loved it. I'm not gonna lie. I think they painted me in a very good light. There was some things that I had said that could have gone in there that didn't. So I think they definitely did paint me in a good light because I picked that cameraman up that day.
Paying it off.
But and it was wonderful because all my friends, especially my friends who had been on shows before, they messaged me and they said I just held myself with grace and that I was just myself. They knew what was happening. Like they knew when I was leaving because I had told my closest friends. Because you need that support. And this is what people don't realize. Like whether you go first or whether probably the first few when you've given up things in your life and then you go onto the show and you really prep beforehand and you detox from technology and do detox from coffee. Like people don't realize how much you give up, right? And then just for it to blow up in your face very quickly, you do need that sort of support around you, whether you come third or first or whatever it is. There are going to be some things that you probably said that you didn't want to say, or you're going to see yourself in different lights and might not like it. So having a good support source is really necessary if you go on TV.
Absolutely. And also that period before, just let's say the day before it airs, you have the biggest, I was feeling nervous. I mean, maybe not as I had a feeling of what was going to come, but you don't really know. You never really know.
Did you expect it to be one episode about me? I did not expect, it was a very me heavy episode. And I only knew about it because David had messaged me. And I was he was like, enjoy your episode. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I was like, oh, did anyone else show up on that? I was like, it was literally I was like, oh, okay. You mean literally okay, just change the name. Get as much
But I
Frankie in
think
as possible.
I'm not, this is how I actually feel. It's possibly one of the best episodes because you are, it would have been, how do let's talk about different season. Like, not normally you wouldn't go first,
No.
like and so I think that they had to do it sort of justice. I think it has to kind of help people understand that this was like a monumental event sort of thing. So I think if they
Correct.
didn't feature you so much, it wouldn't have made sense why it was like such a significant thing.
Yeah, like why Titans were going the way they were going with like
Yeah.
knocking out the fit people. But
Yeah.
it was quite an interesting one as well because like I was quite upset, obviously. But I was quite upset because it happens a lot in my life where and I don't know how to say this in a way that makes me not look like it's a hard one because when I say this one, it's gonna regardless, I'm gonna sound conceited. But I have a very hard time getting along with females until they get to know me and then we get on.
Yeah.
And there were little things that were happening on the lead up that I like the cameramen were paying a lot of attention to me, or they were like, come over here and do this and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, please stop. And it's not because I think I'm the prettiest person in the world or anything like that, because it wasn't because of that. It was because we were talking about before, camera presence and hats and things like all of these different things. And also because they knew I was getting voted out. But every single female voted for me.
Yeah.
And that one probably hurt me the most because I had spent time with two of the like Caroline and things like that. And I didn't know that Nathan had said something that was quite offensive to them. And so that is the sort of thing that wouldn't come from my mouth.
Yeah.
And so I didn't know that. And so that really did hurt my feelings in the beginning. I love Caroline. She's the sweetest woman. And she messaged me and said, like, this one actually hurt me and it's the only one I felt bad about. Like, she was so she's a sweetheart. But people don't realize, like we were talking about before, past traumas and all these different triggers kind of like just surfaced. And I remember the flight home for me was very hazy. And I remember getting to the airport and my fiance was standing there with a balloon and he was like, and I just cried and I was like, every girl voted me out. Yeah, it was just one of those things where I was like, I understood you boys because we hadn't had the chats yet. Like I understood it. My plan would have always been to eventually work with you boys because we all respected the game. But you don't think about, and I don't know if this was the same thing with you, but you just assume everyone that goes on knows it, right? And then you go on and you forget that if you're going to work with people that don't know it, they're going to be on there and you're going to have to.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it affected people in different ways in that regard. Like, take Eden, for example, working with someone like Kitty or Jaden, it ended up sort of biting him in the bum. But then at the same time, if you work all with people who know the game, you assume that people know the game, but it just creates what I call like a natural randomness or natural variability. If you think of like a bell curve, it's like, well, it just creates natural uncertainty, and so it just affects your game. Like,
isn't it? Like
that's entertainment. That's why it's so good.
Yeah.
Like Kelly, like imagine you're planning for so long, or you've watched 40 seasons, and then you show up and Kelly's in your face. Like poor old Gareth. Garrick was like, he's a massive fan, and he's like, I can't get over how much Kelly annoys me. And
it was our naive. Like, we were just naive. Like, we thought we'd get on there and it's like a game of chess, right? No, you're getting on there and it's like someone threw some fucking checkers in there too, and you're trying to figure out which pieces go where. And so, like, it was just, I think we were just naive. Like, that's what it was. Like it wasn't going to be handed to us on a plate, because that was the thing, is like we were saying, it could have gone either way. I think it was a hard pill for me to swallow because I had seen too many seasons before. And the first thing I said to the producers was, fuck, was I being annoying?
Nah.
And that was the first thing that you say, because we'd seen so many. And then every one of them was like, no, we just watched the Tribal Council and you are just incredibly threatening. And I was like, was I being threatening? And I hadn't known about you yet. So I was like, what was I being threatening to? And I just didn't realize that you'd read me. And
Yeah, that's tough.
and that's
It's
fine.
tough.
Like, that's and,
Yeah.
like, do you know, I was way more, I actually felt so much better when I realized it was because you just had read me.
Yeah.
I'm not the only person who's good at reading people, and
Mm,
I was naive there, and the thing is you had read me. You had been like,
mm.
"She's from the western suburbs. She's also loves, like, she's from the western suburbs, she's watched the game before, she's,
Yeah.
chatting to everyone, and you're like, "Nah, fuck this girl, get her out of here." She's a
No.
threat to my game.
Hey man, I want to say thanks for sharing that about like the chicks thing, because I think that uh, this game, you don't really know, you only have your experience out
Yeah.
there, right? And everyone else has got their point of view, and then eventually there's the point of view of the TV camera, and that's what gets shown out there. But because you don't really know what's going on, and you can never, I don't know if you can ever really find out the truth. Like, I don't think that there is a truth. Like, you're worrying about, like, oh, like, were the girls, like, did they not like me, or maybe it was Mark or whatever, but you can actually never really find out, because I think that people, like, even our memories get warped, right? Like, I think I know
Oh,
what happened,
mm,
but then, like, I've heard people talk about stuff, and then I'm like, I can't even really remember what's going on. We're starving. And so
yeah.
that sometimes you reach for, and I, not too bad, but I know that other people, they like, they draw meaning from things somewhat sometimes when they're not even there, and I hope what you're kind of saying at the end is that, like, you were kind of happy to be, well, not you, like, it was reassuring that you were not annoying people. It was more that you were like a game player, and that's like an easier thing, I think, to accept. And
It's just an
yeah,
easier
so
pill to
cool.
swallow, and whatever makes you
Yeah.
feel comfortable, right? Like,
Yeah.
the way I see it as well is like, there's this really interesting theory that I like, which is like, you're your own main character. Everyone's their own main character.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
because of that, everything that happens around you is happening to you.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where people don't realize that it's just happening around you. And
Yeah.
so when we're in these things, we're like, it's all happened to me. Everyone's voted me out. Everyone doesn't like me. And we don't
Mm.
realize, like, everyone's just playing a game and everything's happening to them. And
Yeah.
so I think that was the biggest one. I think was like, I I think the hardest thing is, like, you get ripped from the game because you didn't
Yeah.
have this experience because you were
Uh,
towards the end, but you
mm.
get ripped from the game. And I don't know if I should say this. So if you don't think I should take this out later, but
Okay.
I was sitting in business class on the way home, and I was
Okay.
in business class, and this woman, she'd never sat in business class before. And so
Okay.
she was sitting next to me and she was like, "Oh, this is wonderful." And I'm very lucky to have sat in before, but she was
Mhm.
like, "Wonderful." And she was like, I think they just felt sorry for me, but they were like, she's like, "How do I use this and how do I use that?" And I was like, "Woman, shut up. You have no idea what you're doing." Like, you have no idea where I've been. And you could have clicked.
Uh,
I told you.
yeah. Mate, you never know what's going on in other people's shit.
I know
Everyone's
it,
got
and
our
that's what I
lives,
mean. It
right?
was one of those
Yeah.
things where I was like, this woman is sitting next to me and and you just don't know what's going on. And like, that's the thing, is everything was happening to her, but I was like, you wouldn't even believe me if I
Imagine if you just wrote a little note to her and you're like, can you please shut up? This is what I've just gone through.
I've just been voted off number one on the new Survivor. Like,
Call me at
and
Frankie
yeah,
Guascoine at Instagram.
at Frankie G. Like, but
Oh, dude.
no, I think, look, it's a really wonderful experience, and I do think, like,
Mm,
I was very, very fortunate to there's this like little band of first timers that
mhm,
have been voted off, and
mhm,
they kind of like welcomed me in when it happened.
mhm,
So I think we'll just follow that tradition, because there was a lot of hate, like, in terms of, you're the first to be voted off, blah blah. That sort of shit never actually bothers me. It's a weird
mhm,
thing.
mhm.
I'm a very big what people think about me is not my business type of
Yeah.
person. Um, but I yeah, I think I'm not. Everyone's not like that, and I
Mhm,
remember it being hard for me. And if it was
mm.
hard for me, it's going to be hard for people that might not have that kind of no shit attitude.
Yeah,
So you just got to
absolutely.
welcome him in, and I think your position's quite hard too. I think, so close to the end. You
Mm,
worked so hard. You did so
mm.
well.
Thanks.
Um, And like, yeah, like it's like sometimes I think it might even be harder getting so close to the end because you're like, I'd have to fucking do that whole thing again. At
Yeah.
least if I had left halfway through, then I didn't experience fucking 40 days of it. Like,
Yeah. The thing that makes it easier for me is like having the loved one. I didn't realize how much it would mean to have the loved one visit. That just was incredible because getting to share, you understand what it's like now because it's like seeing the environment, seeing everything, seeing a challenge, seeing JLP, seeing the cameras. It's something that you can't, that we are bond, like we are bond, you're in now, we're in a club, in a family of
nobody
people who have,
understands. Yeah.
yeah. And so I feel like so lucky to have been able to give a sneak peek, to my wife to
Yeah.
see that. And I think that makes it a lot easier when potentially the game slipped through my fingers on a
Yeah.
bloody wheel of torture, potentially, not necessarily.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, well look, I am so happy that there is that little club out there, and I hope you can pay it forward. And if you are that person out there, get in touch with
Get in
Frankie
touch.
or
Yeah.
whoever
Get
it
in touch with
is.
any of us, I think. I think people don't
Absolutely.
realize, I think people don't realize how nice it was as soon as we started getting released as a cast.
Mm,
How nice it was to have like past players kind of just be like rooting for
yeah.
you, or just
Yeah.
getting in touch as well, because they understand and nobody will understand. So
Yeah.
nobody
Yeah,
will
absolutely.
understand. I've had a few
Yeah.
friends on The Bachelor and stuff, and they've told me about their experiences, and they're all very different but the same,
Yeah.
So like nobody, I guess the difference is you're fighting for love and we were fighting for air. Like it's like we're fighting for food and shelter and basic human needs. But yeah.
There you go. Frankie, mate, this has been so much fun. Thank you so much. I really want to see you in person in
Yeah,
Bondi. And if
cool.
you, I want to take you, I want to show you the sites in Brizzy if you come up.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Absolutely. We're
this has
welcome
been a lot of
anytime.
fun.
We will give you a nice head massage in the salon. Yeah.
Mate, I'm going to give you all the tips in Koh Samui and
Yes,
in
please
Bangkok,
do. Yes, please
and
do.
because I love I do like a good like it's something when they get into the temples and it's just
Oh,
very it's so good,
it's my
so good.
favorite thing. It's like anytime I'm always like, "Oh, does anyone need to practice doing head washes today?" And I go lay in the basement, and then my juniors do this thing. This makes me sound so entitled and spoiled. But I do this thing with my juniors where I go, "If anyone walks over, just tell them to go away." So I close my eyes. 14 children essentially that are like, "Frankie, Frankie, and I'm like, "No, go away. I'm getting a head massage. It's my time." Yeah.
The temples are getting smoothed.
No,
come back in half an
nothing like
hour.
it. Yeah, if you haven't had a temple massage, you're not living. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, mate. Well, give us shout out to your your social media, and your business as well, so people would know where to find you.
Yeah, if you're ever in Bondi, it's at Mokosh Studio and it's
Mhm.
at Frankie G.
Yeah.
So soon to be Frankie C. So get in there
Oh,
quickly before it
you making it
changes.
official on
Yeah.
Instagram?
Yeah, that's what he wrote. He was like, I've always liked Frankie G, but can't wait to turn her into Frankie C or something like that.
Oh, that's right. I saw that. That was
Yeah,
super cute.
smooth,
Yeah.
smooth.
Mate,
Um,
all the best for the wedding. I hope it goes really well.
Thanks. I can't
Yeah,
wait to
and
listen to the rest of these as well. And hey,
yeah,
you never know. We'll definitely catch up, but you never know. Maybe we'll play together one day in a
I
parallel
hope
universe.
so.
Yeah.
Mate, I have my leather jacket ready. All right. This is Beyond the
Amazing.
Edit.
Thanks so
I'm
much, Matt.
Mark Warnock. Find me at Mark T. Warnock. And thanks for listening. Bye.